To cover this topic, we are going to have to start at the beginning. The Branch Davidians. Who were the Branch Davidians, you may ask? The Branch Davidians were a religious group who operated out of a compound referred to as Mount Carmel, located in Waco, Texas. This group was loosely related to the Seventh-day Adventists, who believed that the apocalypse was soon occurring, and their leader, David Koresh, was the one who was going to pave the way for this to occur. There were also many illegal actions going on inside this compound at Mount Carmel, which consisted of child abuse and polygamy. The primary suspect of these actions was Koresh, who had married multiple underage women and had children with them. Many rumors had circulated Waco in reference to the compound, but the spark that lit the fire was about the rumors surrounding their illegal collection of weapons. Since the Branch Davidians believed that the apocalypse was soon to occur, they had stockpiled large amounts of semi-automatic weapons and explosives. After the ATF had been alerted of a possible stockpiling of weapons, they made an attempt to arrest David Koresh, which ultimately failed. This led them to initiate a raid on the compound, which very quickly turned violent. After this initial raid, 4 ATF agents were killed, and many others were injured, which forced both sides into a ceasefire. Following the initial raid, a standoff began throughout the next 51 days. Throughout this time, some women and children were released, but the majority remained inside. The FBI also agreed to play one of Koresh's sermons over the radio in turn for his surrender.
My name is Dave Koresh. I'm speaking to you from Mount Carmel Center. The first thing that I would like to introduce in our subject is the reasons for the revelation of Jesus Christ.
Ultimately, Koresh refused to leave, despite his agreement. Throughout the standoff, the FBI used many different psychological strategies on the compound in an attempt to force the people out. These strategies consisted of firing bright lights at the compound at night, as well as blaring loud noises through large speakers towards the compound. When these efforts failed, the FBI made the decision to storm the compound with tanks and tear gas in an attempt to force the Davidians to surrender without any gunfire. After hours of this repeated insertion of tear gas by the tanks, the compound lit fire and inevitably burned down to the ground. The results of this final operation ended in disaster, resulting in the lives of 75 Branch Davidians being lost, 13 of whom were adults, and 5 children who had suffered fatal gunshot wounds, as well as 1 child who had been reportedly stabbed to death. Over the years, there have been multiple different theories on how this tragic fire started, but the most compelling theory is that the FBI started this fire through their irresponsible use of tear gas and tanks, which caused the building to take spark. 6 years after the fire, the FBI will admit to the use of flammable tear gas on the compound, although they claim that it was fired at a location separate from the actual compound. The use of flammable tear gas creates a very high likelihood of the building catching fire, and the aggressive approach of the tanks could have only increased these chances. Because of this fire, many men and women were not able to escape the compound, which resulted in their lives lost, and many former Davidians blame the government because of this. Although many signs point to the FBI as the primary cause of the fire, the U.S. government argues that the Branch Davidians started the fire themselves. According to the Justice Department investigation, arson experts found that the fire began in multiple different locations inside the compound. The arson investigators' official statement is as follows.
This fire was caused by the intentional acts of a person or persons inside the compound. Fires were set in 3 separate areas of the structure.
This information suggests that the Davidians inside the compound started this fire themselves, although there is a strong reason not to fully believe this arson investigator. During the initial days after the Waco siege, the department spokesman, Myron Marlin, stated,
"We know of no evidence to support that any incendiary device was fired into the compound on April 19, 1993.
However, 6 years later, this was found to be a false statement when the FBI admitted to the use of pyrotechnic tear gas. This scale of withholding the truth from the public causes a large degradation of the FBI's claims when it comes to their official reports on the incident. The reports of the arson investigators are also temporarily raised for questions because they made no claim about the incendiary tear gas despite being professionals in their field. Additionally, an independent investigator by the name Carlos Gigliotti found possible evidence of gunfire during the raid throughout his analysis of the thermal imaging tapes from the day of the raid. It is also important to note that he was later found dead due to unclear circumstances, which has led some questions being raised about his death. Because of the inconsistencies in many accounts, it is difficult to trust the claims that the Branch Davidians were solely responsible for this fire. Although this case is still spoken about today, there are still many details that are not open to the public, either because the case was so long ago, or those details may just not exist. Ultimately, this event was a tragedy either way you look at it, and the lives lost cannot be reversed. In total, there were 75 deaths of men, women, and children inside the compound, as well as 4 ATF agents on the outside. The government may claim they did not start the fire, but there are also many ways that they could have prevented this whole raid and standoff from occurring in the first place. Specifically, the government could have easily attempted to arrest David Koresh while he was outside the compound and avoid the whole Day 1 raid at Mount Carmel. Because of the government's irresponsible actions in this event, many children and mothers' lives have been lost. And because of these decisions, I believe the FBI played a major role in causing this tragedy and should be held accountable for their actions. Thank you.